There are people who are not able to afford a lawyer or a paralegal, but they can afford to use a chatbot on their phone or something developed on their phone to actually bring their case in, because the system would have said, we would have prompted it for that. I believe in the concept that justice must be for all. And if we're going to use AI, it must be used for all, including the people that we least consider, even with the concept of AI or the concept of technology. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To see what the equitable principles are in relation to that case. We are not exercising compassion, but we look for reason and we look for mitigating circumstances. So as judges, when we exercise all of those elements together, there's a human aspect. Often there's an ethical aspect, and sometimes there's an equitable aspect. So we look to see if the applicant has come to the court with clean hands. So there are so many areas that I think AI cannot replace human nature and human judgment in respect.
Specifically to the question that you've asked, where were we 5 years ago? That is in the year 2020, just before COVID hit all of us globally. So before the year 2020, we had already started piloting the e-filing solution in the commercial and tax division. But we were doing that with a very small team of lawyers and law firms, and we were already building on what would an e-filing account look like. So for us, what we decided to do as a jurisdiction is to build our systems internally. So we haven't gone out to get a partner or even buy a system off shelf. We have built ours internally. So before the year 2020 and specifically in the year 2018, we started defining the process flows and who is the process owner. When you're filing, what happens? It's a lawyer who is filing, it's a litigant who is filing. So all that was done in collaboration with the ICT department. So we had to take through the ICT developers through the entire legal framework and the process flow, and this is what happens when a lawyer or a litigant is filing. So by the time COVID was hitting, we had already, and we already had a somewhat, e-filing happening in that particular division. So specifically on 16th of March, I'll not forget, when you are told that, we have to close the courts and go home, and yet justice could not, stop. We still had to hear cases, and people still had to file matters. So using that particular system, the Honorable Chief Justice, of course, Justice Maraga, did a practice direction on electronic case management based on what you were doing in the commercial and tax division. And we did roll out e-filing in all courts within Nairobi. So what is e-filing? At that time, we were telling lawyers and litigants, look, you don't have to come to court, you don't have to send your documents through e-filing. From the comfort of your home, from the comfort of your office, you can register a case, you can actually assess that case, and you can pay online, and at the same time, you can get your orders because the judges and the judicial officers will be able to get access of the cases that you have filed on the online system. So we transited from manual case registration, manual filing by payment, going to the bank, queuing at the bank, and bringing the bank slips to the registries, to the e-filing system where you are assessing for yourself and you're making the payments and you're actually getting a case number. So that is how the e-filing rolled out in courts in Nairobi. And we took 3 years to just ensure that we have refined that process, trained the lawyers, trained the litigants, and also for us, internal stakeholders on how to manage cases that have been filed online. So in the year 2023, is when we decided to take another step and to roll this out to other counties, starting with Mombasa, Kiambu, and by last year, in March 2024, e-filing was rolled out to all court stations across the country. So as we are talking now, there is no way you will interface with the judiciary manually other than through the e-filing system. Of course, there are instances when the system is down. If you have been on the online platform, you can know that we've had a system downtime from Friday of last week, and there have been a lot of frustrations from litigants on the fact that our system has been down. But what do we do when there's a system downtime? We, of course, build the resilience of our systems, but even as we do that, look at the backup plans that we have, we give alternative ways of filing. So we revert back to what we had, and by this time we are saying, look, use the email addresses that we're using during COVID, file your matters through email. We will be able to get those documents and we will be able to assess them internally, give you the invoices, you make your payments, and still the judges will use now the case tracking system, which is internally facing, to be able to process those particular documents. So that is in respect to filing. So from the time that you initiate a case to conclusion, we manage that through the e-filing system, and for us internally, we manage it through the case tracking system. It is the same system, it is just that e-filing is external facing, and the case tracking system is internal facing. But at the court level now, when this matter is ready to be heard, all our matters, 90% of our cases are proceeding online. Every judge, every judicial officer has been given an online account to manage their court. So what do? The online court sessions mimic exactly what happens in physical courts, where they are public.
In Ghana, the case management system is not electronically available in all the courts. A few years ago, we had a judicial service project to migrate almost everything we do online. We called it the e-justice system. Unfortunately, as one of the panelists has already mentioned, the system was not developed in Ghana. It was a European company that developed it. The usual challenges you have that is not consistent with the practical situation in Ghana became apparent. It was then a decision to deploy it only in Accra. It is now, all you can do is to have a case number assigned to what you are trying to do online. The rest is all going to be paper. Beyond Accra, almost everything is manual. So the challenges we are having in Accra has to do with technologically inclined.
In the law, we need to understand the technology. So I think that's an area for the Kenya Judicial Academy, KJA, or the JTI to look at. And I think that's an area where we can engage with experts in the audience and members of Law Tech who can come forward and say that this is an area we can collaborate with the judiciary on. I'll stop there because I'm sure there's more on this topic.
Information that we have is information that is also consumed by our stakeholders. I would look at it that we are at par at least with what is required, but there's a lot more that still needs to be done. Actually, conversations about not just being able to use the technology, but conversations about issues like infrastructure, what Judge has just mentioned, the issue of training about that technology and just understanding it across. Because even as much as we talk about the uptake of technology, the uptake of having data that can speak, not just information, is it's not about the sensitization and the training of the judiciary only, but also falling back to what is happening with the stakeholders.
All our courts at the moment are not paperless. So I'll start by saying that we are still very much manual, and that obviously has had a challenge of its own. The first one being that we have huge volumes of paperwork to process, and also filing space. Our registries and offices are now full to the point that we now even put containers outside to store extra records. So we have not yet gone paperless. But Zambia also started going the automation way. Our digital innovation journey started in 2008 when we were privileged to be financed by the Investments Climate Facility for Africa. They gave us some funding and support whereby we started a first project of going digital. It started with them putting technological gadgets in the courtrooms. It's starting with the Superior Court, the Supreme Court to start with. We have 2 courtrooms at the Supreme Court of Zambia and of course the major high court stations. So after that phase, the next was how do we now operationalize this technological equipment we have got. It went into creating now an IT unity within the judiciary, so now we can proudly say we have a fully fledged IT department. That also came with the training what we call real-time court reporters. Zambia proudly has the real-time court reporters that are able to report proceedings whilst the trial is ongoing. Some judges now don't even write anything. They would rely on the transcript that will be produced at the end of the proceedings.